Hello, welcome to Bored and Confused, where I review shows based on two criteria. One, was I bored? Two, was I confused? Today's show is the Real Ivanov playing Off-Broadway at the Lynn F. Angelson Theater, which is the home of Classic Stage Company, although this is an independent production. That's on East 13th Street, for those of you who want to know. Before I jump into this, please take a moment to like, comment, subscribe. I want to hear what if you've seen this, if you know about Ivanov, I want to hear what you think about my take on the show. Let me know below, and it helps me grow this audience and bring to you more theater videos that let you know what's going on in the world of theater for all you theater lovers. Okay, this is going to be an off-the-cuff review because this show, I went to opening night last night, didn't realize it was opening night, so I was like, oh, I got to get this review out. So I'm recording it this morning, and I'm going to put it up. I'm not going to edit it. You get what you get. So we're going to go on a roller coaster ride. Hang on with me because I have some thoughts about this. Okay, so what did I know going into this? Well, I know the play Ivanov because it was done off-Broadway. I saw a production of it last theater season, which I thought was surprisingly good and I really enjoyed. And it sent me on a little bit of a deep dive into this play by Anton Chekhov. It's his first play. And I watched a movie of it as well, just to better understand it. So I went into this really knowing a lot about the play. But I thought this was a one-person show because all of the advertisements I saw were really focusing on Sam Underwood. And also there was a one-person Vanya that was done last season. So that's what I thought we were doing. But it is not that. It is a full production, but it has been truncated to 100 minutes. It's been adapted by Laura Strausfeld, who also directs this. So it is produced by Sam Underwood's production company, Initiative Productions, and he stars as Ivanov. Now, I'm not really familiar with Sam Underwood, but he is a successful television actor, and he, although being from London, he fell in love with New York and came to New York and studied acting here, and now he's returning to his theater roots in this production. Okay. Also, a little information about Laura Strausfeld. She is a Chekhov scholar. She absolutely loves Chekhov. It is scripture to her, which is ironic that she's adapting it and making it, she's taken the Bible and she's making it shorter and more contemporary, but trying to make it more contemporary. But she tells us about her love here. I also read that she came to fall in love with the play Ivanov when she saw the Kevin Kline production at Lincoln Center. And I didn't understand this watching the show, but after I researched it afterwards, I came to understand why it was called The Real Ivanov. She also did a production called The Real Vanya. And so this is a continuation of that idea. And what she's trying to do is, it's not the real one. The real one is what Chekhov wrote. But what she's trying to do is make it real for modern day audiences. So by making it shorter, making it more accessible, the actors speak in modern day dialects, and she's trying to get rid of the melodrama and make it more accessible to modern day audiences. Was she successful at that? Well, we'll get into that. So, for those of you who don't know the play Ivanov, let's tell you what it's about. Here is a really succinct description. So, the subtitle here is a comedy about despair. I don't believe Chekhov wrote that, although he did describe it as a comedy originally, although when productions I've seen, it's much more of a melodrama with comedic elements. But here's what it's about. Over the course of a year, Nikolai Ivanov, once a charismatic and admired man in his mid-30s, has become overwhelmed and depressed, and the story is really about how the people around him must understand him and each other in ways that are both comic and eventually calamitous. That is succinct and all you need to know. Right, so let's start with Sam Underwood, who's the reason for the season, for this production. I think he's good. He anchors the production. This is such a hard play, though. This is Chekhov's first play, and it feels like his first play. It has a lot of the things that we're going to see developed more when he writes The Cherry Orchard, Uncle Vanya, Three Sisters, The Seagull. He writes very interesting three-dimensional characters. They're all very specific types in this world, which I love. He also has wit, and he also is very thoughtful, and he's talking about subjects that are important now that were important then. So all of those elements are there, but what I feel is narratively he hadn't really reached his stride yet. Because we've got, at the center of this, we have a very unlikable character. He's clinically depressed, and he just doesn't seem to care about anyone but himself and his own depression, and he's wallowing in it. And, it's such a difficult role. And I think Sam Underwood played it truthfully, but sometimes I felt like he was playing the depression and not maybe the desire to get out of it. But maybe he doesn't have a desire. But, this character can be such a sad sack. And I felt like Sam Underwood played into that instead of trying to give us a little more nuance, giving us something about him. We need to somehow feel something about him other than the fact that he's an attractive young man who's just having a rough time. So he did well enough. The standouts really for me was Sasha, played by Amelia Masson, if she's French, and Pasha Lebedev, played by Spencer Aste, A-S-T-E. Again, did no preparation other than learning a little bit about the play. Okay, so anytime we had Sam Underwood, Amelia, or Spencer in a scene, just the three of them or any configuration, I thought the scenes actually worked quite well and I enjoyed the acting. The rest of the cast is a mixed bag to me. Some of them are more known for television and some are more theater actors. And they were also struggling with the directorial choice to pare this down so that there is no sets involved in the show. We start out with a bench and a book in the first scene. We move on to the Lebedev's house, which is just a big white carpet. And then the penultimate scene is a strip of red carpet, and they're playing it as if they're in a corridor, which I was confused by because they're in the Lebedev's house. I don't know why. Maybe they're in a pantry. For as much as I know about the play, I'm not exactly sure where they are, but because they are trying to have a conversation away from other people. So maybe it works, maybe, I don't know. Let me know below. In the moment when I watched it, I was confused by it. Okay, but the actors are struggling because they don't have the realism of having props and tables and chairs to sit in. So at the Lebedev's house, we've got 4 people playing cards, but they're doing it standing up, which no one would ever play cards standing up. It makes no sense. And so it feels ungrounded for me. And I felt for the actors because they've been given a difficult task. And the reason this play is really hard is our lead character is so depressed, and yet we're trying to do a comedy, especially in this. They said a comedy. And it's not a comedy. Not this production. It has comedic elements, and I felt like we had characters playing two different, some were in a melodrama and some were in a broad comedy. So we've got characters really trying to be funny, which to me is always so hard. I want characters to really create an interesting character. The character is comical, just and recognizable to an audience. We can be like, oh yeah, I know that person. We've got the mother of Sasha, who is a penny pincher, who is just so uptight with money, and it's comical, right? Then we've got the man who runs Lebedev's property, Misha Borkin, he reminds me of Kramer from Seinfeld. He's always got a plan. He's always got a scheme that he's working out. And Dr. Lvov, he's a young doctor who is so idealistic and just thinks of himself as being so wonderful. These characters are so great. And if you can really find the character, you don't have to try to be funny. And I just felt like a lot of these comic characters were trying to be funny, and it just isn't funny when you do that. And then a contrast, if these characters can be bouncing against this depressed character, you can have humor. So I just did not find this a comedy. So I'm beating a dead horse with that. Also, this was in the round, just like the production I saw Uptown, but I thought Uptown, actually it wasn't in the round, it was more thrust because it had one side, which I think is important. This space is often done as a thrust with just 3 sides, which I think would have been better for this because the director really didn't feel like she really knew how to handle the space. She had the actors, especially in the first scenes and at the Lebedev's house, where there's a lot of actors on stage, they were moving constantly, which is good because we're in the round and we don't want to have their backs to us for too long, but they were moving without purpose. It felt like everyone needed their ADHD medication. They were just constantly moving and without any purpose. And So, I also just struggled really with, there was moments, a few moments where like everyone would freeze, the lights would change, and Ivanov would step out. And I don't know, I mean, it was a lovely stage picture, but I don't think it was necessary. On the fence about that. I could see how there was a one moment with the red carpet where they were all stuck and then he steps out of that, which I think visually was lovely, and it did point to how he was just not being able to relate to these people. So I'm kind of contradicting myself on this. So take that for what it is. Also, dialects were confusing to me because we've got Sam Underwood doing a contemporary London accent, and then we've got all the American actors doing American accents, but some of them are doing kind of standard American for the theater where they're speaking very clearly, and it sounds like an American on the stage, where we have some actors who are speaking like they're just hanging out with their friend at Starbucks and mumbling and sounds contemporary, but we're in the round, so if you're not facing me, I can't understand you. And you just sound so contemporary. So let's wrap this all up. As you can tell, I struggled with this show. Was I bored? Was I confused? I was bored by this play, which is ironic because I was more bored with this 100-minute play than I was with the 2.5-hour version that I saw last season. And the reason I think I was bored is because this play by Chekhov, as I said earlier, the narrative structure is not as interesting as his other plays. And so by truncating it, she's taken out the philosophy, the wit, the character development has been taken out, and we're focusing on the narrative arc so that we can get through this in 100 minutes. But the narrative arc to this play is the least interesting part of the play for me. The most interesting part is these interesting characters. And I don't mind living with them if the acting is alive and their motivations are clear. Then I am entertained by this play without really feeling like I need that narrative arc. But you've stripped it out. And I especially was disappointed by how much had been stripped out for Marfusha Babakina, who, to me, she's this widow who is, she's kind of an airhead, but she has all this money, and she's looking for a husband, and then she meets this man who has a title, and she's so excited about that. She's such a fun character, and I felt like most of her material had been cut out, and I so loved the actor who played that when I saw it off-Broadway, and I just felt like this actor, they took away everything for her, and it wasn't working for me, and I was so disappointed by that. So yeah, I ultimately was bored during this play, and confused. Yes, I was confused by the contemporary and the melodrama, the comedy versus the melodrama. It just wasn't working for me. And then later when I read about what she was trying to do, I went, oh, now I understand what you're trying to do. But not knowing that going in, I was just confused by the juxtaposition of the contemporary dialect versus the traditional costumes, the lack of props. Oh, I didn't mention this. This is just right at the start of the play. We meet Ivanov and his friend, the guy who's taking care of his property, Misha, and we hear Anna, his wife, off stage, and she should be practicing the piano or some musical instrument, but we hear her disembodied voice. And this space at this theater has a loft space, which they've used in other productions. And Anna's supposed to be in the house, and he's like, shut the window, you're going to get cold because she's sick. And I didn't understand why they didn't just put her in the loft like she's looking out of the house. It would have made so much sense instead of hearing a disembodied voice of where I could not tell where it was coming from. That right from the beginning, I went, oh no, are we using this space? Anyhow, that is a nitpick, but right at the start, it just concerned me so much. All right, so yes, I was bored and I was confused by this production. So let me wrap this up, which I kind of already did by explaining why I didn't. I think we took out the things that really worked with this play and we're focusing on the things that weren't. So who should see this show? If you love Chekhov, I think you should see this because I was glad to have seen it just to see this truncated version. Having just seen another production off-Broadway, it was really interesting to compare the two. compare and contrast, and I would love to hear your thoughts. So go check it out just for me so I can hear what you think about it. Now, I did get a press ticket for this, which it pains me because every time I get a press ticket, I want to just praise a show. But so thankful for that. There's not a bad seat in this house. It's only 5 rows deep. I was in the top row, row E. No problem. I actually love that seat. Any ticket is fine. I know there are $35 rush tickets on Today Tix, so snag that. I think you'll find other discount options for this play during its run. So go check it out. I would love to hear your thoughts on this play. Now, thanks for sticking with me on this unedited version of this review. The next one we're going to be doing is Paranormal Activities, which I will be posting later tonight. So check that out, and thank you so much for watching. And when you go see the Real Ivanov, your expectations can be where they need to be, so hopefully you won't be bored or confused. Bye.
Don't wanna drift away, wanna stay inside the play, keep me engaged.